My name is Lily. I'm a social worker with Child Protective Services. And I wanted to record this video today because I just heard about what's going on in Texas. And I know this is like a loaded start because what isn't going down in Texas? Anyways, I was scrolling through my Facebook looking at the news articles tab, and something came up about the governor ordering child protection to open cases or to open investigations for every single transgender youth. And I clicked the article because I'm like, how? How? So I go and read it, and the article itself, I guess this happened weeks ago, and now there's hearings for trying to repeal it. But the governor of Texas, the biggest state in the United States, one of the few that has child protection as a statewide system instead of a county-wide system, decided to make being a transgender youth, those children are now, according to him, victims of abuse. So he's saying that parents that allow their children to take hormones or puberty blocking medication, he's saying those parents are being abusive of their children. And the doctors that prescribe it are somehow now breaking the law that he just made up. It's ridiculously crazy. Now, I didn't see anything about this. I really didn't research it because I was just so furious. Did he give CPS more money? Because that is going to be an enormous amount of new investigations on top of everything that they were already overstaffed or understaffed to do, under budgeted. And he all of a sudden created a whole new category, super broad category of abuse that doesn't exist. Giving your child medication that's been prescribed by a doctor is not illegal. It's not abuse. Regardless of where you land on the transgender debate of whether or not children should be able to start transitioning, this is medication that's been prescribed by a doctor, that's been found to be in the best interest of the child, that there's steps to get there. They don't automatically, you don't just walk up to a doctor and say, hey, I want you to prescribe me this. That's not how it works. So that's the first one. That's just for starters. Not even taking into account that that's violating people's right because of somebody's idea of what's right or wrong. The other part of it is now this article talked that in the hearing in Congress or whatever the state level is to try to repeal it. So they're trying to say the governor did not go about making this legislation in a legal way. Because now they're trying to figure out how do we do these investigations? How do we end these investigations? So the supervisor from the Department of Family and Children and Child Protection. So the supervisor is saying they were told not to write anything about these investigations on email or text message. It's the first time they've ever heard of this. They're saying this is completely unethical. I'm assuming the department is just waiting for it to be repealed and they don't want any actual records of what the communication has been, like what the consultations are, for when people start suing, they don't get hit by the lawsuits. I don't know. It just sounds shady all around. So they are doing these investigations on people. One of the people that's suing somebody to get this stopped, it's an employee of Child Protector, and saying that the main child hospital in Houston is already changing the way they treat transgender youth because of this. Going back to child protection, I'm sorry, I'm going at this from memory. So it's saying, so the governor said this is now illegal, right? You can no longer help your children transition. So he says parents that are doing this now need to be investigated. But when they're being investigated, they're not finding any signs of abuse or neglect. But they can't close them because the governor's saying this is illegal. But when they go with the child abuse laws that they have under which they can open or close a case, it's not on these definitions. It's only on these definitions that the governor just made up. So in that lawsuit that I mentioned, they have made an injunction to stop the investigation for that one family because I guess the judge asked the social worker or the supervisor if what happens with these allegations. Do they stay in the system forever or is there a way to get rid of them? So they're saying, when we're able to investigate and find that there's nothing wrong, they drop off the system eventually on their own automatically. But when they're not able to investigate fully, or they find that there's been abuse or it's inconclusive when they weren't sure, those stay. So now the next time that something happens that this family needs to be investigated, all of a sudden now they already have a history because of this one person that decided to make this a law for no freaking reason other than because he wanted to. It's ridiculous. It's just crazy. So the article I read actually had no resolution. It's just like they're in the middle of these proceedings right now and they're out there protesting. Don't make up new forms of child abuse. Okay. There should be more differentiated types of child abuse because there are new forms of abuse, especially with the internet. No laws have been upgraded since the internet started as far as child protection, at least where I'm at. So yeah, that should be done, but it should not be done by one person because they felt like it. And if it does happen, if a whole new category of abuse comes up where the state is being mandated to investigate it, it better come with some money along to pay the people that are going to investigate this with more staffing, because now everybody that's investigating this is not out there investigating actual children being abused. So many families are being affected by this, not only the people that are being investigated for no reason, because yeah, at the end of the day, it's just one more inconvenience they're going through to affirm their truth or whatever. But there's every time that a worker goes out to investigate a transgender youth for no reason, there's another worker, or that same worker is not going out to investigate a child being beaten, being raped, being abandoned, being traded for drugs, being neglected by the parents because the parents too busy doing drugs or prostituting and leaving the child alone or not caring about them at all. But instead, those workers are being diverted to investigate youth that are perfectly safe and healthy but are undergoing transition. And that's the world we live in today.